Hey everybody, it's Tammy DeLue here with the Safe Space Podcast, and I am so happy to have another one of Paul Hubbard III's satisfied customers with me today. It's Mr. Curley Henry, and he is out. Where are you? You're in Michigan? Or are you in?
No, we're in the Atlanta metro area.
You're in Atlanta, because some of his clients I know are in the Michigan area and some are in Atlanta, and that's where Paul is right now. And we're going to talk with Mr. Henry about his experiences. I want to ask him, first of all, to introduce himself and tell a little bit about who you are and how you got what you're doing now. Are you retired already? Are you getting ready to? And that sort of thing.
Well, as you said, my name is Curley Henry, and I was telling you earlier there's another one. My name is Curley B. Henry. My son's name is Curley Bayette Henry. So you see, I gave him a full name rather than an initial. I was born in Columbus, Mississippi, but raised in Ohio, Akron, Ohio, in fact. And at the age of 18, I joined the Army and spent a couple years in Vietnam and got out and worked at the Postal Office and went back in the Army and stayed for 22 years. And then after I retired from there in 92, I got a job with the Department of Veteran Affairs. I worked at 3 different veteran hospitals in the administrative field. And then I retired from the VA healthcare system in 2015 here in Decatur, Georgia. And so since then I have been volunteering with a veterans group downtown McDonough, in the city of McDonough is where I live, a group known as the Veteran Support Group. Where we provide advocacy work for veterans who need to or wish to file claims, and some other things we do for them as well.
Well, that is a really needed service. There are so many veterans in this country that aren't getting the kind of attention they need to get. So I really appreciate your time in the service. I have a lot of my family members are also in the Army, the Navy, Marine Corps, all that sort of thing. Yeah. And it's a different world planning for retirement when you're in government service, is it not? It's like a different mindset you have to have.
Well, yeah. I remember when I got ready to retire from the Army, I had not really, up until the 5 years prior to retiring, I had not really put any thought into retiring. You know, what you're going to do, you're going to have 22 years in the Army, what are you going to do? Will your military specialty transfer over to a civilian specialty, which mine didn't because I was in combat arms, so in air defense, so I couldn't get out of the Army and walk out in civilian life and start shooting down enemy aircraft.
Although some things you could probably, your skills could probably be pretty useful nowadays.
But anyhow, so yeah, I had to learn a new trade. My last few years in the military, I spent some time in the administrative field, so I was able to apply my administrative skills in the jobs that I picked up on as I went into retirement with the Department of Veteran Affairs, and so that carried me through.
Well, yeah, and you learn a lot of skills like leadership and organization, I'm sure, in the military, yeah. Things like that. Those are really critical, and I think they're ultimately transferable skills. So the funny thing is now you're like a lot of people who were in government service. You've got the pension from the Army or the benefits from the Army, and you've got your civilian benefits or your civilian things that you've accrued. And how did you put it all together to make it where you were able to do pretty much what you want to do now that you're older, now that you're out of the service?
Well, at some point you've got to start planning on what you're going to do with any of your money. And some are fortunate to learn that early on in their life when their parents might have taught it to them. Unfortunately for me, my parents were not able to teach it to me. They had to take care of 9 other children while I was number 5 out of 10. And so they were kind of limited in the fact that they were too busy providing for us, as you might say. And so I learned, I was fortunate to have a wife who pulled me down and set me down and got me involved in some some smart investment things, and they grew and met some people along the way, and so, but you just have to, if you, like I said, if you're fortunate, then you know what to do with your money as you earn it going along. So the 23 years that I worked for the Department of Veteran Affairs, I was able then, that money that I was earning there, I was able to learn and do something smart with it along the way. And so by the time I retired, not that I had enough money to where I could travel and do what I wanted to do, but I had enough money to say which turn I wanted to make in life from that point. I did not have to. That was my second job after retirement, my first job after retirement. So for 23 years with the Department of Veteran Affairs allowed me to do some smart things with my money, so I would not have to, continue either to work for the federal government or anyone else. And so, and that all came together as a blessing from God, who I will tell you I believe in very strongly. So that's pretty much the way it is. Made some investments, saved some money, and so I was fortunate to meet Paul sometime after 20. I retired from the Department of Veteran Affairs in 2015, and I think I met Paul probably a year or so after that. I'd seen him in the gym. We were both members of a gym here in the area, and so what happened is I was in the gym one morning changing, and how people leave their business cards laying around. And so there was a business card laying there on the table in the room there, in the gym, in the locker room. And I just picked it up and looked at it, and I kind of stuck it in my gym bag. And I think probably a year or so went by, and I was at the gym one morning, and for some reason I was having a conversation with Paul, for maybe other than a hi, how you doing? And so he was telling me something about his business. And what he told me about his business I thought was great, wasn't something that I was eager to jump into because I was already into something involved with someone else. But I always thought it was great that it sounded like he was doing well with it. But I asked him, I said, I found this business card about a year ago in the gym, in the locker room, and it had, I can't remember what it had written on it. He said, oh yeah, that was one of my cards. But now the card didn't have anything to do with the kind of business that I got involved with Paul. It didn't indicate to me that it was an investment type of business. It seemed like it was more of a IT type of business on the card, So that may be why I really didn't follow up with it. But nevertheless, that was the beginning of my relationship with Paul. It might have been in 2016 or 17, somewhere in there. I'm not sure.
Wow. And so what struck you about Paul when you first met him that what lured you in, so to speak, or made it where that you wanted to talk to him more about your situation?
Well, as time went by, so this was well after the 2008 crash, if you will, where, in the federal government, we have this thing called TSP, 401k type funds. And so I had retired, and I had transferred mine out of there to another investment company. And so one day I was telling Paul that this company was not doing, it's not that they weren't doing well, but some things that they had, some things that they had part of my money tied up into just didn't sit right with me. So I was explaining it to him, and what it was really, it was a variable account. And so he explained to me how he offered those type of accounts, but he suggested that I would not get involved in another variable account like that. And he explained to me the reasons why. But he did not, for the most part, engage me as saying, come on over here. He just told me that, he provided those type of things in his business. And so as time went by, and the company I was involved in began to show me even more reason to part company with them, I went back and spoke to Paul again. And actually, we were on elliptical machines every day, working out together. And so I brought it to his attention again. And so he was telling me, he said, well, I can probably set you up with the fund. And so I said, well, let's talk about it sometime. So, we set up an appointment, sat down. He went over the plan, showed me some great things about it. And actually, he came to the house, and my wife and I sat down with him, and he went over this variable plan with me. But this one was not a variable plan. This was I can't think of the word for it right now.
Like a fixed product?
Yeah, it was a fixed fund, plan. And so, what was attractive about it is that it had a rider attached to it that would provide up to 5 years or for 5 years, depending on your situation, where it would pay you the full benefit and allow you, if you're at home, but a doctor would have to write a diagnosis for you to stay at home for up to 5 years under this rider, and during that period of time you would get the full benefit from the plan. Now, after that time was over, once you enter into the use of that particular rider, if it's for 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, or 5 years, whenever you came out of that plan or got back on your feet, so to speak, then that was it. So you didn't have any time left. So, but still, I felt like it was a good plan, even though I do have, benefits through the Department of Veterans, through the VA benefits, so I am a disabled veteran. But still, I just thought it was a good backup plan, to have. And so I invested in it with him. And to this date, it has been a very good fixed investment for me. Later on, I think maybe a year ago, in fact, I decided to invest with him again in a very similar plan, only through a different agency, a different company, and with the same benefit. And so I actually bought the second one because I couldn't get my wife to purchase one, so this one's really for her. So.
Well, that's very forward thinking of you. It's good that you're thinking of your family in that regard. What would you say as far as your concerns as a senior going in? Someday you may want to do absolutely nothing, but what's your biggest concern? Is it medical issues with you, or what do you think the biggest issue?
I have. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have medical issues. Like I had while I was still working for the VA, I had a major back surgery where I had a fusion in my lower back. Of course, this was from an injury in the military, and I have had some other medical issues that were resolved. But as this happened back in 2000, that surgery happened in 2007. I am now 73 years old. But one thing I'm learning as I grow older is that growing old means the body breaking down more, regardless of how much you eat well, you sleep well, you exercise well. And I work out 3 days a week with a trainer, have been since 2007, since that back surgery. But nevertheless, there are things that will happen to the body that's just going to wear out. The body's just like a blade of grass. It withers in due time. And so...
Did you just say you were 73, seriously? No way. How old did you say you were?
I'm 73.
No way. You look amazing. So it is paying off, all that discipline and the training and everything. So Paul's into that too, and so you had some simpatico with Paul, and he's trying to keep you from running out of money when you retire. As you said, the body breaks down, you don't want to work anymore. What do you think he did the best when he, approached you, as far as his, his presence and who he was? What was it that impressed you the most?
What impressed me the most about Paul is he did not go after me in a salesman type way. He did not charge after me. He simply told me what he had, and if you like to, I can, stop by sometime and share it with you. And that was that. And a lot of time went by before I went back to him with that offer. It's not like, I can stop by, hey, how about this weekend, or let's get together after we finish working out. Let me go over this thing with you. It wasn't like that. It was simply, these are some of the things that I have going on and I'm involved with, and you might be interested in it. I said, okay, well, maybe we'll talk about it sometime. And like I said, some time went by. It might have been a year, or it might have been a few months. I'm not sure, but he was not. I don't like to be chased by someone or run down by someone, especially where my money is concerned. If you have something to offer it, walk away. If I'm interested, I'll get in touch with you.
That's a perfect lesson for a lot of advisors that are just get a little overzealous with what they're doing. I think for the most part, most financial planners, especially retirement planners, they do want to do the right thing, but they get a little tense, they get a little overzealous, and that does push people away. So that's a very good point. And finally, I just want to say, if you had a friend that came to you looking for an advisor, because retirement advice is a little different than when you're accumulating your money, and you need someone who's kind of specialized in that. Would you be willing to at least recommend Paul, or would you tell friends about Paul, or if they ask about it?
I would, and I have. One thing I can attest to is the fact that this first program that he got me involved with, first fixed program, and he talked me through each of the I'm sorry, somebody keeps hitting my phone.
Well, you're popular.
Yeah. He taught me through all of the entire program and all of the various stocks and things that were being invested in. Now, what happened, of course, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is that at a certain age, the federal government, if you have investments, they want part of that money back, or part of that money, period. So by the time I reached the age, or just before I reached the age for that, they call it a RMD, required minimum distribution.
Yes.
They changed it from 70.5 to 72. But what Paul did is, I turned 72 late in the year, in October last year when I turned. What he did is he showed me where I need to start making a withdrawal from my accounts early in the year, so that by the end of the year, because the IRS, see, this is him teaching me now because I didn't know. He said, because the IRS is going to want to collect for the entire year that you were 72 in. And so he showed me that. Now, and what really gets me is that the amount of money that I invested into this particular program that he got me into, and that was, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but it had gained very well. So it was not like, and every year, of course, we get the tax statements and the dividend statements, so on and so forth. But and so as I began to draw from it for the purpose of the RMD, it did not appear that it was hurting me. In other words, if you got an investment and when you start drawing from it, after a while, it's going to deplete, it's going to go away. But he showed me how to withdraw from it without that happening. Where if it had been a straight IRA, I would just have to withdraw from it, like I do have another IRA some other place. Each year when I withdraw from it, if the market doesn't do well, then that's not going to do well. But this plan that he has me in seems to keep doing well.
It's exactly. That's something that you really have to learn. The strategic withdrawal in retirement is so important, because if you don't, you can't always time the market. But if you could run out of money in retirement, and I think that's a very big concern of people, especially people over 65. And so, in closing, though, I think that's really touched on some really good points for any advisors that are listening. Number one, don't chase after people. If what you have is good, present it to them, walk away, leave them to think about it. And also, don't assume that just because somebody works for the government, they understand all their benefits and how they work.
Can I tell you one quick story about Paul?
Sure. I love stories about Paul.
Okay. Well, he shared with me a situation where a close relation of his had invested with him. And this is when he was doing straight IRAs or straight stocks or whatever it was. And so the market had a bad downturn, really bad. And this guy had a nice size of money in there that he lost. And so what I learned, it never dawned on me. I knew that that's their job. People who are investing your money, stockbrokers, so on and so forth, they got to get paid out of what you pay in, and so on and so forth. But Paul told me how he had felt so bad when this guy asked him, when the guy told him how he had lost a huge amount of his money that he was investing through him. And he asked Paul, he said, well, did you still get paid? And Paul said, he felt really bad. He had to tell the guy, yes, I still got my money, regardless of the fact that you lost yours. He said that's when he decided to stop selling that particular type of product.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to lose money for your clients at all. That's not what you're in business for. And I actually have another advisor who was a wirehouse broker and left the industry because he did not want to be the person that called you on the phone the next day and say, sorry to tell you, but you lost 30% of your account. And when you're retired, you can't afford to lose that. Maybe when you're 25, you can recover from that. But when you're 55 or 65, it's not going to happen. So excellent points there. And thank you so much for talking about Paul Hubbard III. I don't know. I promised you that I would get Paul to send you his new business cards to put in your gym bag, because they're the Better Call Paul business cards. And
I can use a new gym bag.
Oh, okay, Paul, you hear that now? Curley wants a new gym bag, but I want to thank Mr. Curley. I was going to say Henry, right?
That's fine.
I got it right. And he's in the greater Atlanta area. He's worked with Paul for a number of years, and the whole purpose of this, but we have two full purpose for doing this, Mr. Henry. And one is to let advisors know what seniors are really thinking when they're getting ready to plan for their retirement, or when they're in retirement and they're a little concerned, what's going through their heads, because I don't think a lot of advisors even bother to try to understand that, especially the younger ones that aren't at that point yet, Yeah. And Paul's been there and done that. And the other is to help Paul attract more people just like you, more people that are in that same mindset, that share his faith values and his morals, and and the more people we can get into his circle, the better he'll do, and the better actually society is going to be, having more of these kinds of advisors in the world. And that's what we want. And I've heard nothing but great things about him since I've been working with him. So it's my pleasure. Again, Mr. Curley Henry, thank you for your service to the country. I mean, I can't even imagine what Vietnam was. Maybe we'll have a whole show on your experiences on that sometime. But thank you for being with me, and I really appreciate it. I will send you a copy of this as soon as we get it rendered. So for everybody, this is the Safe Space Podcast with Tammy D. I want to thank everyone for listening in, and I hope that you took away as much as I did. Thank you again, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
God bless you.
You too. Take care.
Bye.